Good, Elliot. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the committee. You've got 10 minutes with us this afternoon, so I invite you to start the presentation.
Tēnā koe, tēnā koutou katoa. My name is Helmut and this is my colleague, Thomas Newman. Hobson's Pledge is a civil rights group driven by 140,000 supporters who believe that all New Zealanders should be equal before the law, no matter their skin colour, no matter when they arrived in the country. We draw inspiration from the words of Governor Hobson during the treaty signing, which is he iwi tātou, which is, of course, we are one people. We educate on treaty and related legal issues. We expose apartheid-style policies being quietly spread throughout the New Zealand system. We fight through various mediums, such as front pages of the New Zealand Herald, to stand up for equal rights and have fun in poking, often taxpayer-funded, bears of racism that we have seen expand and exponentiate, especially over the last decade. We receive requests from help up and down the country from many, many people in different industries, and this is even outside of the 140,000 people on our lists. Now, before moving into our commentary, we also want to bring up a public point here, which is we learned this morning that Hobson's Pledge have not been given a time to present. This is outrageous when you consider our leading voice and the tens of thousands who support us. We want to thank Democracy Action for giving us their spot that was done pre-hand, which was done beforehand. We were expecting to be given a voice on Thursday. That didn't happen. We also want to thank those staff members and the clerk for being able to confirm that we were indeed here as per Democracy Action's brave sacrifice. Again, Mr. Chair, it is incomprehensible that we would not have a voice to speak at. There are serious questions that need to be asked on that. Now, I'll pass over to my colleague in order to start that commentary process.
Thank you, Elliot. Mr. Chair, committee members, my name is Thomas Newman. I'm a practicing civil litigator in law based in Auckland. I'm a recent appointee trustee of Hobson's Pledge. I will be addressing you today on Principles 1 and 3 of the Treaty Principles Bill. Elliot will be addressing you on Principle 2. Hobson's Pledge supports Principle 1 of the Treaty Principles Bill. Laws must be made by a sovereign entity. Sovereignty must be unified and laws applied equally to every person within a jurisdiction, otherwise they are not laws. The fact is that this Parliament is the sole sovereign of these lands. There is no other serious contender for sovereignty in New Zealand. It has this authority as a matter of political fact, but it continues to have sovereignty because it is a representative institution, with members elected through free and fair elections. Sovereignty is derived from the people who are governed. Now, these facts are reflected in Principle 1 of the Treaty Principles Bill. Principle 1 acknowledges the right of the government of the day to govern, Parliament's authority to make laws. Now, these empowering elements are balanced by explicitly stated limits. Governance and lawmaking must be done in accordance with the rule of law and to maintain a free and democratic society. Principle 1 therefore complements the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act 1990, which similarly acknowledges Parliament's sovereignty, but permits only such limits on protected rights as can be justified in a free and democratic society. Principle 1 is simple, elegant, and reflects constitutional orthodoxy and political reality. Some argue that it does not, which is one of the reasons why the Treaty Principles Bill is necessary. Principle 1 is not, or at least shouldn't be, controversial, so it should not stop the bill progressing to a referendum.
Principle 2 is critically flawed. It states, the Crown recognises the rights that Hapu and iwi had when they signed the treaty, Te Tiriti. The Crown will respect and protect those rights. Those rights differ from the rights everyone has a reasonable expectation of to enjoy only when they are specified in treaty settlements. Now that's effectively saying that New Zealand will treat all people equally, but not really. That is not equality. While we generally support the treaty settlement process, the committee must consider the following issues that will become present. 1, the exact agreed rights in 1840 are unclear and likely will remain so. This ambiguity will perpetuate conflict and litigation, and it will be taxpayer funded. I don't think there's a doubt about that. Existing treaty settlements contradict Principle 1. And number 3, many settlements are yet to be concluded. This is likely to create rights superior to those of other New Zealanders. And perhaps this is why we see in our culture, our workplaces, even today in many, not all, but many of our submissions today, an articulation of white guilt on one side and victimhood on the other side. These do not help our people. They do not help our nation. We need to get rid of them. As currently worded, Principle 2 invites the creation of laws based on differences by bloodline, making a mockery of Principles 1 and 3, indeed Articles 1 and 3 also of the Te Tiriti Waitangi. Hobson's Pledge recommends that Principle 2 return to its original intention, simply guaranteeing the property rights of all akin to Article 2 of the treaty itself. We are happy to now take questions.
Might need to address Principle 3. Turning now to Principle 3. So Hobson's Pledge supports Principle 3. There's a qualification there which I'll turn to a little bit later on. But this principle states that everyone is equal before the law, entitled to equal protection and benefit of the law, and has the same fundamental human rights. Things like affirmative action in health and education, co-governance in central and local government, or privileged access to power through consultation obligations are said to be justified by the treaty. This violates the principle of equality. Now, I'd just like to make a note here on consultation. Many submitters have complained that Maori have not been consulted on this bill. This is demonstrably false. Many of the submitters today, and presumably in future hearings, are Maori or Maori groups, and being Maori did not disqualify any of them from participating in this process. This is a consultative process. Many submitters have made historical and legal arguments based on the treaty why we should have all of the things I referred to earlier. They pay lip service to Principle 3, to equality, saying that it is already a part of our law in one breath, while attempting to justify different treatment in the other. Not only are these arguments incoherent, they are distractions. No technical no technical knowledge of any sort is required to understand that different rights for different people, especially on the basis of race, ancestry, or belonging to some imagined separate polity, is a recipe for disharmony and resentment. It is also simply wrong. Equality is essential to a harmonious and just society. It does not require that people be the same, value the same things, or frankly even like each other. Free and equal people in a democratic society are allowed to be different, to value different things, and to lead different lives. Understanding this should deal with much of the fear that people have about what the passage of this bill would mean. I'd like to now turn to the one qualification we have to our support for Principle 3, the use of the phrase equal benefit. We're concerned that the inclusion of this phrase in Principle 3 as currently articulated would introduce the concept of equity or substantive equality. We would remove this phrase from Principle 3. Sovereign parliaments can and does legislate to address material inequality, but it should not be a constitutional guarantee or principle. Now, just very quickly, in closing, and I realise there's probably not going to be much time for questions, but I'd like to just say, there's some phrases and words, ways that people get identified in conversations of this sort. One of them is Pākehā, another is European. Well, I'm neither of those things. I'm not my ancestors. I was born here. I'm an individual. I'm a New Zealander, and I don't think it helps to talk really in any other way than that. My rights in this place, to address Mr. Ferris's question earlier, don't depend on a document signed in 1840. And frankly, the suggestion that they do is wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Elliot. Thank you, Tom. So just sort of clear up a perceived misunderstanding. Hobson's pledge was invited in the first emails that went out to make a submission, and unfortunately they weren't able to respond by the deadline, and so those slots were filled up by those submitters who did respond in time.
It's possible we have a severe miscommunication.
Very good to
We've been very much
I really appreciate the time that you've given us this afternoon. So thank you.
Special treatment.
Folks, we're going to move on now. Let's
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So they managed to evade themselves to Dakota RAF.
They did.
Honestly, I would love to be in a formal, adjudicated debate with all of that. That is where that young fella finished off, saying that being in this land does not derive from Te Tiriti or Waitangi is so intentionally ignorant of our historical reality. You know, it's like, bro, explain yourself, right? That's just bizarre thing to say. Did he say belonging to an imagined something?
Yes.
Mate, I'll tell him to go to Tuhoi and tell them that you're an imagined. Go on, go try that. Go down to Tainui, come to Ngāti Toa and tell us that my people are imagined to belong to our tribes. Just because his reality is so bereft of the reality of the indigenous community in this land really reflects poorly on them. The last thing I'll say, and I'm sorry to suck all the oxygen out of the kōrero whānau, is that the one thing that just drives me crazy is the insistence of those who repeatedly say that Parliament is sovereign. Okay, where did that come from, whānau? And what were the terms that gave rise to the British claiming sovereignty and 1850? What was the terms? Says that all of them, Hobson's pledge to the fore, just want to pretend that our history didn't happen, and we just want to look forward, forget all that. You know, it's just mindless, disappointing. Weak.
Okay, now here's something that I actually found was quite interesting, off topic of Treaty Principles Bill, but this Helmut might, as we know how small the world is. Dame Iritana, was it Tawhiwhi? Is that how you say last name? I will check with Grandma on Tuesday. Grandma Joyce turns 97, and if Ken was still alive, he would be turned 104. I believe that they were in the same year at Teachers Training College as, was it Dame Iritana? I will check
Right vintage.
Yeah, because the part that also gets me is the reason why my grandparents got married in 1949 was because if you got married as a woman while you're on the Teachers Training College program, you were taken out because you're meant to be a housewife.
Beautiful.
And the interesting part is, Iritana and my grandparents got married in the same year, which is exactly 1 year after Teachers Training College, because once you're qualified, you as a married woman, we're allowed to keep teaching.
Yeah.
But this is very scary how small the world is.
It's actually a very sobering thing to reflect on how recently we have been so very different. You know, whether it's gender, whether it's race, whether it's anything, you know, the journey we've been on is it's not very long, and all of those who are so keen to shout from the rooftops of the strength of liberal democracy. Well, how's that doing around the world, whānau?
Oh, yeah,
How's that going? You know, we've only been at, this is version 1. We inherited this version from the 19th century. How's that working out for us, whānau? I think a more fundamental question, if we're wanting to talk about strengthening our nation, is for us to be talking with clear eyes about what a 21st century liberal democracy that doesn't do violence to pre-existing rights but is wise for the future. Now, that's a conversation I'd like to have.
Oh, yes, yes. So
I still can't believe they use a platform sticker on the.
I'll be honest about one thing. It was good to not see Don Brash fronting Hobson's pledge for a change.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I gotta love you and leave you. Thanks for inviting me on, Sam. Good to be with you.
Thanks for joining us again.
Go well.
You have a good night.
Kia ora.
The thing that makes me laugh about the Hobson's pledge submission is that there are more than 5 million people in this country. And they want to make such a big fuss about 140,000 supporters on their list.
I mean, put it this way:
in comparison,
there's more people who submitted to the Tree Principles Bill by a factor of 2 than on their submission list.
Yeah.
Oh, it amazes there.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you're subscribed to our Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, TikTok, News Scout, the Order, Paper